What is up, guys? Welcome to the next part of the tutorial series. So in this tutorial we'll be talking about the basic tags that we'll be encountering whilst creating web pages. The first tag that we're going to look at is the paragraph tag. We're going to move to non-breaking spaces. We're going to look at line breaks, bold, italic, and underline, headings. We're going to do headings in depth. Remember, in the last few videos we did talk about headings and paragraphs, but we did not touch extensively on them. So in this part we'll be in depth in terms of all these tags. We're going to look at Superscript and Subscript. And we're going to look at Strikeout. Let's get our hands dirty. Let's start by opening Notepad. As we said in the last tutorial, you need to go to Start, All Programs, Accessories, and then Notepad. Once Notepad is opened, we need to enter the basic structure as we did in the last two videos. Once the basic structure is entered, we're going to start by changing the title. So I'm going to call this, so we're going to start with the paragraph example. So I'm going to call this paragraph example. In the body element, we need to enter P. We use P to insert a paragraph. So a P is a normal tag. It has an opening tag and then it has a closing tag. So like that. It has a closing tag and an opening tag, and in between we enter the paragraph that we want to see on the page. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this. Okay, once it's done, you go to File, Save As. We go to the location that we want to save our page in, and we rename this to paragraph or whatever you want to name it. Don't forget the important part, .html. You save it there. You go to that folder. As you can see, we have this paragraph example there. Double click on it to open it with the browser, and now it's opened, and as you can see, the paragraph was entered. And if you pay attention, when you enter a paragraph using these p tags like that, you have a white space at the top and a white space at the bottom. We can't see it now, but we have a white space at the top and a white space at the bottom. It skips a line for us. Let's enter two paragraphs. Copy and paste this. So as you can see, we have an opening, closing, and a paragraph in between. We have another one, an opening, a closing, and a paragraph in between. So let's start this one by saying save it, refresh on the browser. Now we have two paragraphs. As you can see, there's a white space before this one and a white space after it. Same with this one, there's a white space before it and there's a white space below it. As we cannot see it now, but it is there. I'll show you that. So that's how paragraph works. We use the P tag to insert a paragraph. A P tag has an opening and a closing tag, and you put the paragraph that you want to insert in between the P elements, as you can see there, as we did. So if you want to enter two paragraphs, you need to insert another P tag, which is the opening and the closing tag, and the second paragraph that you want to insert there, as we did. Now let's move on to non-breaking spaces. So let's rename this page to non-breaking space example, and I'm gonna delete one paragraph, so you're gonna be left with one paragraph there, and I'm gonna reduce the size of this paragraph. I'm gonna reduce it to a single line. Before we move on, let's save this. I'm gonna say save as because I want another copy, and I'm gonna say non-breaking and then .html. Don't forget .html, which is important. So I'm going to close this. When I go here, there's a non-breaking page here. Open it, and as you can see, okay, nothing has happened because we have not included the non-breaking space. In HTML, we spoke about this in the last chapter. We said that a space in HTML is rendered as a single space. As you can see there, there's one space and then there's one space in between there. When I increase this space here, I add more spaces and I click save. When I go to the browser, nothing happens. As you can see, it's rendered as a single space. So what if we want to add more spaces? This is where the non-breaking space comes in. We need to enter and NBSP semicolon if you want to add more spaces. So this is going to be recognized as another space. So it's going to be one, and then this is going to be two spaces. I'm going to save it. Let's refresh in the browser. I want you guys to pay attention to what's going to happen in between is and an. Refresh, and as you can see, now there's two spaces. What happens if I want more spaces? I need to enter the non-breaking space again. Click save, refresh, and as you can see, more spaces are added. So that's how you add more spaces if you do want to add more spaces on a page. Like that. You see there's more spaces like that. So that's basically how it works. Do not make this mistake of trying to enter spaces by clicking your spacebar, because when I save this, go back to it, and as you can see, it's rendered as a single space, right? Okay, let's move on. So how do I go to the next line? Let's change this to line break example, and I'm gonna remove the space over here. So now it reads, this is an example of a page. So I want multiple sentences in this paragraph. So I'm going to copy and paste this. So I'm going to click File, Save As, because I want a separate copy. I'm going to say line break. Don't forget the important part, .html. Okay, go to the folder. I have line break. Double click on that. Let me close the previous one. And as you can see, I have my paragraph here as I instructed it on the code. So what happens when I want the second sentence to be on a separate line? In the code, as you can see, the second sentence is in a separate line, but then when you look in the browser, everything is in its own line until it reaches the end. Everything is in the same line until it reaches the end. So it skips a line automatically. So what if we want to skip a line manually? So this is where line breaks come in. If I want to skip a line or manually go to the next line, I say BR. And BR is an empty tag in that it does not have a closing tag. So you just say BR, save, refresh, and as you can see, it goes to its own line, as we said there. So if you want each sentence to be in its own line, we just copy, let's paste this at the end of each line, refresh, and now as you can see, each sentence is in a separate line, as we said, using these line breaks. Let's have two paragraphs. So you must remember that line breaks are used to manually go to the next line. They are not used to separate paragraphs. Let me do an example. If I want to separate these sentences into two paragraphs, I do not do this. This is a bad programming practice. I'm going to save this and I'm going to refresh. And as you can see, this is two paragraphs, which is incorrect. If I want to have two paragraphs, I have to use two paragraph tags. I'm going to close this paragraph tag, and then I'm going to start a new paragraph by entering P like that, and then it's going to end there, and save it and refresh. And as you can see, we didn't change much, but then this is a good programming practice. So we do not use BR tags to separate paragraphs. If you want to enter another paragraph, you need to use a separate P element.